Thank you. So, thank you for coming to this. My name is Jerry. I work at Odoo in the R&D framework JavaScript team. So, I'm kind of specialized on JavaScript. I love JavaScript, even though it's a flawed language, but you can talk to me about that later. For this talk, I want to introduce you to the fundamentals of JavaScript framework. I'll try to give you an idea of the way it's designed and the way you can work with that. So it's more like an introduction to working in JavaScript. You don't need to know much JavaScript, but I hope that you know a little bit of at least JavaScript or Odoo. So what we will do in 20 minutes is kind of a challenge. I didn't time myself. We'll see how far or not I get. I want to build this dashboard with you together. But I cheated. I did it before, and I have some commits that I will cherry pick and discuss, of course. So I will try to explain you how to integrate your own JavaScript UI wherever you want in the web client. Of course, it's like an introduction. It's only 20 minutes, so it will be quite fast. And I will not do as much as I wish I could. So I will first talk about the framework in general. Then we will have like 3 parts about OWL, loading and showing data from the server, and then we talk about services a little bit, and we'll end this talk. So first, let's talk about the framework in general. What is the JavaScript framework? And I think it's useful to understand that OWL is not the full picture. OWL is a framework, a standalone framework that manages a component system. It allows you to render a user interface by a tree of components, and it maintains the browser up to date depending on the state of those components, right? That's basically the same kind of abstraction level as you would get if you were working with React or Vue or Solid or other frameworks. So that's what OWL is. Then Odoo is like a suite of applications, so we have more needs. We need a little bit more abstraction, higher level abstraction for building those CRM accounting projects and other applications. So that's why we do have what I call sometimes the JavaScript framework. That's kind of an informal way to say a set of views, fields, components, date picker, utility function, a lot of stuff. There is quite a lot of code in this. So all these other applications don't have to reinvent the wheel many times. They can use the basic building blocks provided by the framework. And then you have on top of that the web client, which puts those together and like define the shell, the navbar, and the content for the user interface. Okay, so most applications have to integrate, to register themselves into the web client, and we'll see how to do that. Oh, I just explained that, so I'll skip this slide. So first, let's start coding. So I will try. I like to do something quite hands-on. We'll do a project together. So I created a new add-on named Awesome Dashboard. I added a menu item. I created a component that you can see on the left. No, it's not left. It's on the right, of course. That is this component is for now empty. I will talk a little bit more about that. And it's live on GitHub, so you can check the code if you want someday. You can look at this video later and check the code. Yeah, let's see. Let's see it's live. So I have it on my local server, and it should be this application. I open it, and I have my Hello OXP 2025. So let's look at the code now. Oops. I will explore view. Okay. Yeah. I lost my dashboard. Dashboard. That's this one. That's this one. Perfect. So this is what my add-on looks like. I'll show you this. For now, this is just a menu item, a client action, and a menu item. That's it. And then you have some JavaScript. I'll put it bigger. So this is my components. For now, it's just an extension of the base component class, and it has a template. And let's look at the template. It's just here. It is just this. So I can modify this template. So for example, I can do this. And then I can refresh the user interface, and it should take my h1 tag. Yes, there it is. Okay, so that's our starting point. Now let's use some OWL inside that. So let's do that. So I'll show you what a component, a more interesting component looks like. For now, the template is basically just a h1 tag, not very interesting. Usually when you have components, you expect a little bit more. You want maybe to have something that is update, some UI that update or that change. And in this case, I have some state, some internal state. I have, just to showcase OWL, I have a counter state. This is using this special function useState. This function useState basically wraps whatever it's given to, whatever it's given, in this case an object, into a proxy, so OWL can keep track of what component is reading which part of the state, and when that part of the state changes, it knows which component should be updated. So if I forget this, if I remove the useState, it will not work. Then this increment function simply increment that value, but we increment that value through the proxy, so OWL can do its magic. And finally, the template, basically, we have just a counter paragraph with the value, and you have a button. And there is something more specific here. You can see we have a t-on-click directive. This t-on-click means that we add a click event handler on this button. And when you click on it, when it's dispatched, the increment method from the instance of this counter will be called. And we'll have a live counter. So let's look at it. I got here my commit. I will just cherry pick it. Okay. And now we should have a live counter here. Let's see. There you go. It's not very big, so let's increase it. We have a counter, and when I click on it, it increments, right? Now I'll show you something else that is useful if you work a lot with OWL. We have an OWL DevTools extension, so I'll just showcase that it's there. So you can browse the components that are alive in the page. I can show you this counter component, and I can live change its own state. For example, I can change this state to another value. So it's useful to sometimes understand more what's going on. You can look into the live OWL component tree. Okay, so that was just a short introduction to OWL. So I hope you understand at least where we're going. Now, we want to build our dashboard. And to do that, we will do it like in 4 steps. First, we will integrate our components, our client action components, into the standard layout component that is used everywhere in the web client. So you'll have a control panel on top in which we can add information if you want to, and you have the main area of the dashboard. Then we will add sub-items in which we will display value. Next step, we will talk to the server, fetch data, live data from the server, and display it in the user interface, because your JavaScript does not mean much if we cannot fetch data. Talk to the server. And finally, I will show you how to integrate with an external, to bind OWL to an external library, and you will display a pie chart. So let's do the first one using a standard layout component. So let's pick the code. Right. So let's look at this. Basically, there is not much to this. We import this layout component. I hope it's big enough so you can read it. We import this layout component. This is a standard component from the web framework. You can see that we import from @web. @web is like an alias to the web add-on from Odoo. So if you were working in a project, if you had like a base project add-on and you want to import somewhere else from that add-on, you could do something like project, and that would map to the files inside the project add-on. But in our case, we are working with web. And of course, you can do, I didn't talk about that just a moment ago, but you can do relative imports. Okay, so what we do, we import this layout component, we add it to the static components mapping, so the OWL knows which subcomponent it should use when it can sit in the template. And in the template, we have this component here, layout, which is just here, And we have like some content here, and this content will be added inside the main area showed by the layout. You see, we have here now dashboard. This is the name of the current action, and below that, this is the part that is displayed by our by our dashboard. Okay, let's move to the next step. Sorry to go so fast. Dashboard item. Let's see how we can do that. I will cherry pick this commit. Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. So it's always fun to see it live. There you go. We have like three sub-components. They have like some hard-coded value for now. And let's see how we can do those, build those components. So I will open first the dashboard item. So the JavaScript code here. So we have a dashboard item. What we do have here, we don't have much. We have a template name, and you have like some static props. This part, this is basically for validation, for safety reason. This props means that the component will crash if it does not receive the same props, the correct type when it is used. And props, I didn't say that, but props are basically value given by the parent component. So now let's look at the template. It's not so complicated. This is what a sub-component could look like. This is a template. You have some dynamic style attribute that looks into the props values. You can see this here. We use the prop value, props.size, to define a dynamic width for this component. And then an interesting part is this t-slot equal default. This is basically a directive to say that all should inject here the content of the templates given by its parents. Now let's look at this. We have here those components have been inserted here into the template, and we have some content here. And this is the part that will be inserted inside the slot provided by the dashboard item component. And you can add whatever you want. So this is a live template. So let's add another counter here, for example. So now in the first dashboard item, I have a counter. Let's look at this. There you go. You see, we have this counter, and it's live. It works. And it's built inside the dashboard item component. Okay, so that was the first step of showing data on our dashboard. Now, what we do want to do is to load some data, some data from the server. I will cherry pick this commit. Oh. That's because I changed the template, so there is a conflict. I will just force it. Yeah. There you go. So now we should have data. Let's first see what it looks like. There you go. We have some values, and those values come from the server. I can show you how it's been fetched. Oh, we can do it here, actually. Let's look at it. I just opened the network tab, so you can see the messages that are sent from the browser to the server. That's very useful. I will refresh this, and you can see that we have this awesome dashboard statistics RPC call that is made that contains an object with a bunch of numbers. And just look at this. Whenever I click on this, it will refetch that information, okay? And with other numbers. This is normal because if you look at the controller, let's do that. The controller that is here, this is the controller for this route. Basically, it just returns a bunch of random garbage. So that's maybe what some business data is. I don't know. But at least for this demonstration, it works well. And it's interesting that you can see that it is refreshed every time. Okay, but let's look at the code now. I guess it should be here. So the first step is that we have to import this function. So this is not a function from OWL. This is like higher level concern. This is a function that is defined in the web framework, in a web core network RPC. Okay, and what we do here is that we initialize a statistics value to false first, and then we do this weird async await thing. And then you call this weird on will start function. So this is an important moment that I want to explain something about OWL. So I'll come back to my slides. Let's do this. OWL components, and all frameworks actually are more complex than we imagine at first sight. So many people believe that a component in any framework, not only in OWL, but is basically just some HTML. But it is more complicated than that. So we have a bunch of moments in the life cycle of a component in which we want to run user code. So basically, it's like a game where the framework has to interleave its own code and the code from the user, the developer that defined that component. So I don't have much time, so I will not go through all of them in detail. So, but basically, you have like three main phases. You have the mounting phase, is that blue, purple phase, this one. So this is the phase in which your component is mounted. Then you have the phase in which your component is visible on the screen. So that's the yellow phase. And then you have like the red phase, red-pink phase, where it is being destroyed. And some of these phases are asynchronous. So some of these steps are asynchronous, I mean. So in particular, the will start, and that's quite special. The will start is like a moment of time in which the web framework, OWL, will wait for the component to do something before it will render it. So that's what we're using in our component here. We use this onWillStart. That means that onWillStart is like a hook that we use in OWL to tell OWL, okay, OWL, wait for this RPC to be completed. It takes 50 milliseconds or even more, and then only then can you render my template. And once it's done, you render the template, and you have this. So we can read value from this statistics object. Okay? So that's I know that it's a lot to pack into one short talk, so I'm sorry. I hope that it's helpful anyway. This is a nice way of building your user interface. So be careful not to have too many asynchronous parts of your code, of course, because it will slow down your user interface. So that's a big part of Odoo. Is like we try to batch those RPC together, so the user interface is faster because we don't have to wait for a lot of stuff to happen. Okay, let's move to the next step. What is it? What's the next step again? Oh yeah, right. It's about adding a pie chart. So I don't have that much time, but let's do it anyway. So we have now a pie chart. Pie chart is just a visual representation of some data. Let's see if it works. It's there. I can remove this. There you go. We have a pie chart. So that's a graphical element that is displayed and rendered not by OWL, but by an external library that named chart.js. So let's see how it can be done. So we have our. Well, let's look at the template first. The template is basically only a div that contains a canvas. So the div defines some dimension, that's just it. And there is like this canvas element inside, and we have a tref, a reference to this value. And what the pie chart component is doing, it is kind of complicated. So there is a lot of information that you can see in this. First, you have to load the chart.js library because it's not loaded by default. So this load.js function will fetch the library, and all will wait for the library to be ready before it will render and mount the component. Now, I forgot to say that we fetch a reference to this canvas element. And when our component is mounted, and only then, because the library is there and the canvas is ready, only then we can render the chart. And so this is some code that will talk to the chart library that is available then, and that will make the library draw on this canvas element. Okay? And we should not forget that as soon as you have some side effects, we need to clean them up. So when our component is destroyed or unmounted, we destroy this chart object. That depends on the specific library that you're using. Okay, so now we have a nice library, a nice pie chart, I mean. I didn't show you how to use it, so let's see how it's done. It should be there. There you go. You have this pie chart, and we give it some data. Then final step, just at the end. The final step is about, what is it again? Services, right. Now, let's come back to this. When I refresh this, you get a different request and a different number every time. And so sometimes you want to keep your data alive because you may want to modify, to interact with that for a longer time. and we use service for that. So I will not explain that too much in detail because I see that I'm out of time, so I will just go very quickly. Those services are basically just a piece of code that stay alive for the duration of the web client, and that any component can interact with. Yeah, so I will just show you the final commit now, and I can explain more if you want after the talk. Let's do it. Let's do this. There you go. Okay, and now, first I'll show you that it works, like I'm telling you. Now, whenever I refresh this, it keeps using the same data. And why does it do that? That's because we moved all the information to a service. So now we have this service. This is some small object that is kept in memory. It's not a component. It's started before the web client is started, and it provides a service, the fact that it loads data. And then I modified this template, this dashboard, to use the service. It will load data from the service, and anytime a component is destroyed and recreated, it will load the same data from the service because it has been memoized. Okay? So the message from this is that, that's another slide on how to use a service. But the conclusion that I want to reach now is that the JavaScript framework provides a bunch of building blocks. You have the services, registries, utility function, components, hooks. And if you combine them, that's basically the way Odoo is built. You can build whatever you want. So thank you for your attention to this talk. And now we have 5 minutes or something to answer a few questions. But after this, if you want, you can find me somewhere here or later, and I can answer any questions about that.
Thank you, Jerry, for the talk. Are there plans to use more TypeScript instead of Vanilla.js, thinking about the static props part of the component we build in this presentation?
That's an excellent question. And I want to tell you yes. And actually, we did somehow. We use OWL is built in TypeScript. It is fully typed. And some libraries, like the Odoo spreadsheet application library, is built with TypeScript as well. So yes, we try to use TypeScript a little bit more, but the main code base, in my opinion, should be in TypeScript. That's a shame that the props object basically replicate the feature of TypeScript, but we don't have a good way to do it, taking into account a lot of requirements. So for example, Anthony does not want the code base to depend on more external tooling. So that's one of the reasons why it's not going to be the case, I guess.
Okay. Each time we start Odoo, we get flooded with deprecated directive at TESC warnings in the terminal, but you still use the TESC in this tutorial. What are we supposed to use instead?
That's another excellent question. So what happened, it comes from, I don't know how many years ago, like 4 years ago, where we introduced T-out. T-out was basically a replacement for T-row that was unsafe. Okay? So since we use T-out, basically, the Python guy decided that they could remove the TESC at the same time, so the TESC to escape the value. And they did it, and they depreciated TESC, but they did not ask me. And there is actually a performance issue using TESC in OWL. If you use a T-out, it's like a generic dispatch point, so OWL has to check at runtime if this is a dynamic template, a block, or a few situations, and it's slightly slower. So I wanted to keep the possibility of using TESC on the static code. This depreciation warning should only occur on non-static code, non-static template. So for the static template, you can use T-out or TESC. I personally use TESC because I'm old, but you could use T-out, it's fine as well. Unless you have like a very specific performance problem, in which case you can use TESC if you want to.
Okay, thank you. What is the difference between using a service and simply reusing a component or importing a file?
I wanted to take more time to discuss this, but this is very short. I tried to do a full project in 20 minutes. But basically, the component, I didn't show it that much, but the component is destroyed and rebuilt every time. So anytime the user is leaving the application and coming back, you have lost everything you had in your component. So that's why in those use cases, it's useful to move the state to something that will not be destroyed and that will be shared among everything. But in this case, it's a little bit overkill, but maybe think about a discuss application. The discuss application could have like one or even more than one services to coordinate the thread, the discuss message, and all operation of the messaging system. And you can see then in Odoo, you can see that you have, like, for example, so in this messaging menu, you have like a lot of information that comes from those discuss services, and they are at the same time, the same information is presented in a different way here, or even in chat window. So that's why in this case it's interesting to have like a global object or a global singleton that contains all the discuss application and that all components can access if they need to. I think we're out of time. So thank you again, and I hope you have a nice Odoo experience.
Thank you very much.